Imagine inheriting a country that has been completely burned to the ground. Not metaphorically, literally. A nation where 14 years of brutal civil war have destroyed every road, every hospital, and every school. A country with no electricity grid, no running water, and a staggering national debt that makes rebuilding feel impossible. Who steps up to lead a nation that broken? In 2005, the people of Liberia chose a grandmother. But she wasn't just any grandmother. She was an economist, a political prisoner, a survivor of exile, and a woman made of absolute steel. They called her the Iron Lady. And when she took the oath of office, she didn't just change the course of her country. She shattered the ultimate glass ceiling, becoming the very first democratically elected female head of state in the history of the African continent. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are exploring the incredible life and legacy of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. How did she survive firing squads and brutal dictators to rescue her homeland from the ashes? Let's dive in.
The size of your dreams must always exceed your current capacity to achieve them. If your dreams do not scare you, they are not big enough. If you start off with a small dream, you may not have much left when it is fulfilled, because along the way, life will test your dreams and make demands on you.
To understand the magnitude of what Ellen Johnson Sirleaf achieved, we have to look at the deeply fractured history of Liberia itself. Founded in the 19th century by freed American slaves, the country had always been divided between the elite Americo-Liberian descendants and the indigenous population. Ellen was born into this complex world in 1938. She was a brilliant student who eventually traveled to the United States to study economics at Harvard University. She could have easily stayed in America, living a comfortable, quiet life in the world of international finance. But Liberia was calling her home. In the 1970s, she returned and quickly rose through the ranks to become the Minister of Finance. She was fiercely intelligent, but more importantly, she was entirely unafraid to speak her mind. And in Liberia, speaking your mind was about to become a deadly offense. In 1980, a violent military coup led by Samuel Doe overthrew the government. The president and many top cabinet members were publicly executed on a beach in the capital city of Monrovia. Ellen narrowly survived. But instead of staying silent under this new, terrifying military dictatorship, she publicly criticized Samuel Doe's economic mismanagement and cruelty. For her defiance, she was thrown into a maximum security prison. She faced the very real threat of execution. Eventually, international pressure forced her release, and she fled into exile, working for the World Bank and the United Nations. While she was in exile, her beloved homeland descended into pure darkness. In 1989, a warlord named Charles Taylor launched a rebellion that triggered the First Liberian Civil War. It was a conflict defined by unspeakable horrors. Child soldiers were drugged and forced to fight. Hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians were killed. Millions more were displaced. For 14 agonizing years, Liberia bled. The infrastructure was entirely wiped out. An entire generation of children grew up knowing nothing but the sound of gunfire. By 2003, international intervention and the powerful, peaceful protests of Liberian women finally forced Charles Taylor into exile. A fragile peace treaty was signed. But the country was left as a hollow shell. In 2005, the nation prepared for its first democratic elections since the war ended. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf returned home to run for president. Her main opponent was George Weah, an international soccer legend and a massive celebrity in Liberia. To many, it seemed impossible for a 67-year-old grandmother to defeat a beloved, youthful sports hero. But Ellen campaigned tirelessly. She didn't offer empty promises of overnight wealth. She offered a mother's discipline. She promised to sweep away corruption, rebuild the schools, and restore Liberia's standing on the world stage. The women of Liberia rallied behind her. Market women, mothers, and grandmothers organized, campaigned, and lined up for hours in the blistering sun to cast their votes. When the results were announced, history had been made. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was the president-elect of Liberia. But winning the election was the easy part. Now she had to govern a ruined nation. Imagine sitting in the presidential office on day one. The government had essentially zero budget. The national debt was nearly $5 billion. The capital city hadn't had running electricity in 15 years. Sirleaf rolled up her sleeves and got to work. Using her formidable background as an international economist, she traveled the globe, negotiating with world leaders and financial institutions. Through sheer persistence and financial brilliance, she successfully secured the forgiveness of billions of dollars in crushing national debt. Slowly, the lights came back on in Monrovia. Roads were paved, schools reopened, foreign investment returned. She signed a Freedom of Information bill, ensuring the press could operate without fear of being hunted down by the state. Her leadership brought international acclaim. In 2011, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, recognized for her nonviolent struggle for the safety of women and for women's rights to full participation in peace-building work. But her presidency was not a fairy tale, and she faced massive, unrelenting challenges. In 2014, the deadliest Ebola outbreak in recorded history swept across West Africa. Liberia was hit the hardest. Thousands died as the fragile healthcare system collapsed. Critics attacked her handling of the crisis, arguing the government was too slow to react. But Sirleaf made agonizingly difficult decisions, enforcing strict quarantines and appealing directly to the international community for military and medical aid. Eventually, the virus was defeated, but it took a heavy toll on the nation's fragile recovery. She also faced accusations of nepotism for appointing family members to government positions. And many Liberians felt that the economic recovery was not trickling down fast enough to the deeply impoverished lower classes. Yet her greatest triumph may not have been what she did while in power, but how she left it. In 2018, after serving 2 terms, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf did something that had not happened in Liberia in over 70 years. She voluntarily, peacefully, and constitutionally stepped down from power.
Liberia is just 22 days away from historic legislative and presidential elections. It will mark the first time in 73 years that political power will be handed over peacefully and democratically from one elected leader to another.
She handed the presidency over to the man she had defeated 12 years earlier, George Weah. In a region historically plagued by leaders who clung to power through military force or rigged elections, Sirleaf showed the world what true democratic transitions look like. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf took the helm of a sinking ship in the middle of a hurricane, and she successfully steered it to shore. She proved that women not only belong in the highest seats of power, but that they are capable of healing the deepest wounds of war.
When I speak to women in Africa and across the world, I am humbled by the inspiration drawn from my experience. The next generation must belong to women.
She earned her title as the Iron Lady, not by wielding a sword, but by holding a broken nation together through sheer force of will. What part of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's story inspires you the most? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into African history, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.